Let's get into some techniques that you'll use very, very often. Now, a brad is also used to be called a paper fastener. They came out of the office products, and they're kind of like a flat ball on top with prongs or legs on the side, and they come in 50 million colors and 20 million shapes, and maybe not quite that many, but it seems like it. You can also get them in an assortment like this. Now, the way to attach them is to first create a hole. Now, I like to use a retractable pick just because it gives me a safe way to attach a brad. And I'm going to make a hole like so. It's just that tough. Then I'm going to retract that stick so that it's not going to stick me. Then we're going to take the legs and insert them into the paper like so. Turn the paper over, and then we will separate those prongs, and that's how you do it. Now, to make sure that it's really nice and flat, I can push down from the front side, and that's going to make it nice and solid. Now, brads are used as a decorative embellishment, just like you're seeing here, but you can also put it at the top of a tag. You can also attach other things like journaling or maybe a tag or something else. So that works very nicely. Now, another way to attach things is with these foam squares. Now, these were shown in our basic supplies, but just want to give you another demonstration. This particular type has two different sizes in it, about a 1/2 inch and about a 1/4 inch. And the way that you're going to use these is to put them on the back of the embellishment that you want to attach. So I have a tag here, and say I want to kind of lift it from my album page. I'm going to turn it over, and then I'm going to take these squares, and they are adhesive. They have adhesive on both sides. And as I lift them off, this side has a film on it, and I'm going to remove that in just a minute. Now, the tag that I'm placing, I haven't written anything on it yet, but I just wanted to give you this demonstration. Now, you can see that I've not totally covered the back. You don't need to do that. You just need to have enough of these tabs so that your piece is supported. Okay, now I've lifted off those little liners, and then when I position this on my page, oh, maybe I'll put it right here. So hopefully you can see that there's a little bit of a lift. It's not quite as flat as the paper, and I've got, about 1/8 of an inch of a lift. Now, if I wanted to make it taller, I could have put 2 layers. Now, this is going to be down, but you can lift it for a little while. So I could, if I wanted to, put a double layer of foam tape. Now, if I chose to do that, maybe I wanted to layer different flowers or maybe create a cluster of things. That's why you might do this. You would probably want to add a little bit more support if you chose to make this a double lift. Okay, so that's how it goes back on my page, and that's how you're going to use the foam. Now, to attach flowers, flowers come in all kinds of colors and types. Sometimes they will have an adhesive on the back. Most often they won't. And the way to attach these is with the help of a brad. So I'm going to take my brad and I'm going to slip these 2 flowers. I'm going to layer them onto the brad. Now, I can attach this to my paper in one of 2 ways. I can come back and create a hole with my retractable pick, and then put them in with the brad as you saw earlier, or I can turn this over and spread those prongs. Now that holds everything together. This isn't going to go anywhere. And I can use what's called a zot. A zot is an adhesive, super sticky adhesive that comes in packages like this. Comes in different sizes. This is a medium. And when I pull it out, what I'm going to see as I unroll this is a whole bunch of clear dots. Now, I'm not sure if you can see that. will get in. Okay, maybe you can catch a glimmer of that. So that's a circle. Now I don't want to lift these off and handle them because remember, they're super sticky. What I want to do is to take my ribbon, my bow, my flowers, bring them to the zot, and then when I lift them off, that zot is going to come, and then I can place them on my paper and it's going to hold it. You can see it's nice, and it's very, very good for three-dimensional things. Another technique that you're going to see relatively often is going to talk about inking. And we're going to take an ink pad. In this case, I have a black one. I'm going to lift off that plastic liner. Don't throw that liner away because it's going to keep the ink from drying out. Now, what the inking does is it allows me to have an edge like this. So I'm going to take my paper, say I want to ink it. I'm going to take my ink pad and I'm going to hold it perpendicular. So my paper is horizontal, but my ink pad is parallel, okay, so it's vertical. And all I'm going to do is rub it along the edge of the paper. Now, you may not see a whole lot happening, but when I bring this on top of a white paper, you can see that I've added a narrow black edge. And it's a uniform size, and it just is a really nice, clean look. You're going to see inking happen very often. Now, if you wanted to create what's called a distressed look, I can take my ink pad and instead of holding it directly perpendicular, I'm going to kind of hold it at an angle. And when I do that and I brush this, I can get a very distressed look, and I can control that. I can make it, just a little bit like that, or I can really bring it in and make it a lot. So it's just another look that you can do. It's also very nice to do on your mat. So let's look at matting for a second. Let me clear this away. And we have a photograph right here. And matting is a technique that you're going to find very, very often. Whenever you use pattern papers, you absolutely want to mat your photos. And a mat is nothing more than a frame. It is most often equidistant around the photograph. So let me just demonstrate. I'm going to take my photograph. I've already got it trimmed to the size I want. I'm going to take my glue stick because that's my favorite adhesive. And I'm just going to go around it. I'm not going to cover the whole thing because my album page is going to go in a sheet protector, and this amount of glue is going to hold it nicely. Now I'm going to take a piece of solid color paper or cardstock, whatever I want to use, and most of the time my matting is going to coordinate with my photograph. So in this case, I could have used black, I could have used white, I can use red, I could have even used a dark green. Now I'm going to position this along two edges of my matting background paper. And in this case, as I said, most of the time they're equidistant. So I'm going to go down about 1/4 of an inch, and I'm placing it like so, and I'm pressing it down. Now here's where my paper trimmer comes in. I'm going to bring it in, I'm going to lift that lever, and I'm going to slide this over until this groove that is my cutting groove is about 1/4 of an inch away from my photograph, and that's really easy for me to see. I'm going to put the lever down and I'm going to make my cut. Again, it's always nice and clean. Then I'm going to turn my paper and I'm going to do the same thing again. Voila, I have my photograph matted, nicely done. And again, this is something that very often will get inked, and let me show you why. Because it almost adds another mat, if you will. So as I just very quickly do this, so it doesn't need to take a lot of time. You do want to be careful not to get your other hand into the ink, because then you're going to wipe your nose and you're going to walk around all day with a black nose and no one will tell you. So just to show you on white, you can see that narrow black edge. Okay, so it just adds a touch. And again, you can control how much you put on there. So that's matting. Now I've done a single mat. You can do a double mat, a triple mat. You can vary the widths of them. You can make them even or uneven. Maybe I wanted to make this wider and put down a series of a border of some sort. So lots of options with that. And tearing paper is the last thing that I want to show you. Let me bring a paper in. Now, tearing paper for some people just feels wrong. Don't feel wrong about it, but what it does is it creates a really nice edge. Now, there's two ways to tear the paper. You can tear it toward you or away from you. Let's see what happens. Now, I'm just going to tear along the edge. Now, you don't fold it first because you want an irregular edge, so I'm just going to start tearing it like so. Are any of you cringing? Well, don't. And as you can see, I'm getting a white edge. That's because this paper is white paper that is printed on top, and that's how almost all the pattern paper is done. Now, if I want to have that edge not be white, let me turn this around, I will pull the paper away from me. And you know, if you ever forget how to do this, just start at a little edge, a hidden edge, and you'll remind yourself. Now, so that's the torn edge. It gives you an irregular border, and it can be very, very pretty on scrapbook pages. You can go back and ink those edges, and here's how you would do that. Simply the same way. Now, it's going to be a little irregular, but that's all right. And you can see how dramatic that just that narrow edge is. Now, on the white side, I can do the same thing. Again, I can just add a narrow edge. Something else you can do with that torn edge is you can roll it. Let me just do that. And again, it's just creating another look. Okay, there you go. Easy to tear, easy to do, and if that bothers you, you never have to do it.